Good morning, everybody. My name is Ayaziyada, Ayahziyadeh, and we're here with Americans for Justice in Palestine Action, a 501c4 organization advocating for Palestinian rights day in and day out. Today, we're commencing our 10th annual Advocacy Day here on the Hill. We're joined by over 500 constituents from over 30 states, all ready to advocate and call on their members of Congress to do the following. Number one, to support an end to military aid to Israel to end this genocide and impose an immediate ceasefire. 2, to restore UNRWA funding. 3, oppose the ICC sanctions bill. 4, sign on to a letter urging President Biden to investigate the Israeli murder of American citizen Aysenur. Today we're joined by our Executive Director, Dr. Osama Aburshed. Sana was one of the lead delegates for the Minnesota delegation, and Lauren Monis, the political movement director of If Not Now.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum and good morning. As we are approaching the first anniversary of the horrific Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip, Israel is paving the way now for another genocide in Lebanon. Israel is behaving like a raging bull, destroying everything in its path. What is worse is that our government is not only turning a blind eye to its criminal behavior, but rather it's enabling it. Today, as we have been doing over the past year, we raise our voices as Americans to say enough with this complicity. We realize that Israel would not have waged this genocide, including the killing and wounding of American citizens, without the absolute support of the government of the United States. The Biden administration is either lying to the American people when it claims that it's sincerely trying to reach a ceasefire deal in the Gaza Strip and in Lebanon, or it's weak and incapable of curbing the extremist government of Netanyahu that leads a state that depends primarily on the American support for its existence. The Biden administration's hypocrisy is clear as it begs Israel not to spark a large-scale regional war in the Middle East, which could implicate the United States. While the U.S. is still sending aircraft carriers, more soldiers, and military capabilities to the region, let alone supplying Israel with tens of billions of dollars worth of advanced weapons and massive, deadly bombs. The ongoing carnage in the region has one root: the Israeli settler colonial project and occupation. It has deprived the peoples of the region of stability and peace for more than 100 years since the Balfour Declaration. The Palestinian people have also been deprived of their inalienable rights and legitimate rights and even their humanity for more than 76 years. Dozens of international resolutions obligating Israel to recognize the rights of the Palestinians have not found their way to implementation. 3 decades of American hollow promises to achieve a permanent and comprehensive peace that would restore some of the Palestinians' rights have only led to more bloodshed, oppression, subjugation, occupation, settlements, ethnic cleansing, and now genocide. However, the United States continue to promise the Palestinians and Arabs the possibility of achieving peace with Israel without changing Israel's aggressive nature and forcing it to abide by international conventions and declarations. On the contrary, when the United Nations or international agencies and courts seek to apply international law to Israel, they often find themselves the subject of American condemnation, sanctions, or threats of them, as in the cases of UNRWA and the International Criminal Court. Unfortunately, American complicity does not stop there. Rather, it has gone beyond that to the extent of violating the constitutional and civil rights of American citizens and the values we cherish, such as freedom of expression, freedom of dissent, and the right to protest. It suffices to mention here the harshness which law enforcement and agencies law enforcement agencies and college administrations throughout the United States dealt with student rallies and encampments. Beyond that, instead of Congress being the guardian of American values and constitutional protections, and instead of being the people's home and the defender of their interests against the infringement of the government, it has turned into a tool used by lobbies, including foreign ones, against the citizens themselves. And I'm here referencing the Zionist lobby that acts as a foreign agent while they're not required to register as a foreign agent. And if you don't believe this, just pay attention to what the Israeli Foreign Ministry issued just a few weeks ago, when it sent their embassies across the world, including the Israeli embassy in Washington, to reach out to Jewish organizations, American Jewish organizations, to apply pressure into members of Congress to go after free speech in America. Imagine the Palestinian Authority or any Arab state reach out to their citizens in the United States who are American citizens as well, and instruct them to apply pressure to Congress in order to adopt certain policies. But when it comes to Israel, they are immune of being prosecuted as foreign agents. That's what we're dealing with. This Congress is allowing this misbehavior. This Congress is allowing this violation of our constitutional rights and of the laws of the land. Now, instead of being concerned with the interest and prosperity of Americans, this Congress annually approves hundreds of billions of dollars in military assistance to foreign countries, while the American people suffer from poverty, unemployment, and declining levels of medical and social services. Now, let us remember that we are approaching the end of the fiscal year, and this Congress cannot agree on a continuation resolution to continue to fund the American government until the end of the year and to continue to employ American citizens. American citizens are about to lose their jobs, and this Congress cannot get its act together. But when it comes to Israel, they almost unanimously vote to give $20 billion on top of $3 billion, on top of $3.8 billion, on top of $17 billion. We do have the money when it comes to funding genocide, but we don't have the money when we want to serve the American people. This is what this Congress is guilty of. Not only that, but we find many congressional leaders who do not hesitate to violate constitutional principles and American values. This Congress now, or some committees in this Congress, is targeting Palestinian activists in America, or activists who speak out for the Palestinian rights, including Jewish Americans who reject and refuse and took a moral stand against this genocide in the Gaza Strip. They're all being investigated by this Congress or some committees of this Congress because they are working as tools of a foreign entity, which is the State of Israel, a state that is funded, aided, opted by the United States, but still it has the ability to manipulate our institutions, to manipulate our policymakers, and to manipulate our representatives and senators. They are accountable to the American people. They're not accountable to Israel. They are not accountable to the Israeli lobby in this country. And this message needs to be resounding and need to be loud enough so everyone understands that enough is enough with this complicity, and we will not be silent until this genocide comes to an end and until the United States ceases to fund and enable this genocide in our names. Thank you.
One moment. Sorry. Wait.
Hello. Okay. Hello, my name is Lauren Manis, LAURENMAUNUS, and I'm the political director with If Not Now movement. If Not Now is a movement of American Jews organizing our community to end U.S. support for Israel's apartheid system and demand equality, justice, and a thriving future for all. Right now, as we're all here, there are about 50 Reform Jews for Justice at the Reform headquarters in DuPont Circle, about a mile away, delivering an open letter for the Reform movement to join them in the call for an arms embargo. After that, they'll be here on the Hill, also joining in lobbying members of Congress for this demand. As a kid, my mom would always tell us whenever she had a recurring Holocaust nightmare. This was almost every week. Because of these stories, I was scared of security lines. I was scared of train cars. I was scared of the cops, and I was scared of the military. But as I continued going to temple, I saw a cop at the front door every Shabbat service, every day at Sunday school and every day at Hebrew school. And I started learning about Israel as a place our people could flee to in case of state-sanctioned oppression in the US or Europe or anywhere. But I am here lobbying, fighting with If Not Now, joining the Reform Jews for Justice, calling for an arms embargo because we know that Jewish safety will never come at the expense of anyone else's safety. That narratives of fear only instill isolation, that militarism is not some magical key to our liberation. The U.S. relies on our people's real history of trauma and displacement to continue its own geopolitical interests, stopping nothing short of enabling a genocide of Palestinians. How does it make any sense that in the face of rising fascism and armed white supremacy, that the only way Jews can be safe is through enabling genocide and regional war? That is abusive, that is offensive, and that is inhumane, and only permits more scapegoating and anti-Semitic rhetoric and violence. So we will not let this continue. Jewish and Palestinian safety are intertwined. They always have been, and they always will be. So we are here today and every day demanding not one more U.S. bomb dropped in our name, not another child killed, not another family broken apart, and not another community destroyed. May it be so. Thank you.
Am I good? All right, my name is Sanat Wazwaz, spelled S-A-N as in Nancy, A, Wazwaz, W-A-Z, W-A-Z. I'm the chapter lead of American Muslims for Palestine, Minnesota. I represent the Minnesota delegation, and we are here with over 30 delegations from all over the country on Capitol Hill. I am here to say that we are no longer going to be the nuisance on Capitol Hill, the nuisance of our legislators. We are not going to be the yearly inconvenience. We are not the inconvenient voicemails that you can just ignore, the emails that you can just send an automated voice message to, an automated response. We are not that. We are not guests on Capitol Hill. Our politicians serve us, not the other way around. We are here to stay. We are here to stay. We are here to stay. This is our space. And mark my words, we're going to be on Capitol Hill today, and we are going to make sure that we are noisemakers, that they hear our voices, they hear our names, and we are not to be pin drop silent anymore. As Dr. Osama said, our politicians have chose profits over people. They have chosen over $20 billion, one of the largest military aid packages to Israel in U.S. history, to go towards a foreign government. While people right here at home still can't afford health care, housing, we Palestinians have been displaced once. Let us not be displaced twice. Let us not be displaced again by our own government, by refusing to provide us housing and health care and the right to live. We are here to say that we are the face of the American constituency. We are no fringe. We are no radical. If it is radical to support abiding by U.S. law, then let us be radical. Let us be radical to demand the American demand of making sure that our tax dollars go to serve us and not to a foreign government. I want to say that today I am dedicating my presence on Capitol Hill to the martyrs of Gaza. I want to say their names because whereas we have heard so much about the Israeli victims, the Israeli hostages, we have heard nothing about the Palestinian hostages that have existed 7 decades before we gathered on here today. So let it be known that today I dedicate my walk on Capitol Hill to Rushdie Sarraj, the cousin of my older sister, a journalist, of over 116 journalists that have been murdered by the Israeli occupation regime. More than all journalists in Vietnam combined in just 1 year. Let it be known today that I'm here for Mohammed Abhar, the Palestinian autistic man with Down syndrome, who was mauled to death by Israeli attack dogs just in July. My younger brother is autistic. He loves dogs. He calls them the angels of God. Let it be known today that we will never forgive the perpetrators that killed Mohammed Abhar, and we will make sure that our legislators on Capitol Hill hold him to justice. We will make sure our legislators on Capitol Hill hold Omar al-Assad to justice, hold his killers accountable. Omar al-Assad, handcuffed, beaten, and left to die in 2021, an American citizen from Milwaukee. And of course, as mentioned by Dr. Osama, we are here today for Aysenur, a Turkish-American activist, just graduated in May, just like me. She was my age. She had dreams. She had aspirations. She was killed by the Israeli occupation regime. Not a word from our legislators that claim to represent their constituency. So let us be the ones to represent. And let our politicians know that they are serving us. We are not slaves anymore. We are not slaves anymore. We are not slaves anymore. 1 year ago, I'll just conclude it with this. 1 year ago, when I went to Capitol Hill, around this month, I was told by multiple staffers that the casualties in Gaza are accidental, just collateral damage. 40,000 lives, shame indeed. 40,000 lives later, that did not age well. It did not age well to say that the deaths are accidental, that our politicians are trying to minimize civilian deaths. We'll talk about it later. Okay, we're here to talk now. A year later, we're here to talk now. And we're going to talk about how you do not shoot a 6-year-old girl 355 times and leave her in a car, Hind al-Rajab. You don't do that by accident. You don't maul a kid to death by accident. This is not an accident, and similarly, we're not here by accident. This is not luck. This is not circumstances that bring us here. This is consistency. This is a movement. This is a grassroots effort that is bringing us here, and it's going to continue. We are not just going to be here every year. We are not, this is not an emergency gathering. We're not just here by emergency, right? The emergency has been 76 plus years of American colonialism and imperialism. That's the emergency. It's been happening for decades, and we're going to be here for as long as it needs. We're going to be in the emails, in the voicemail, everywhere. We are not going. We are not, as my Uncle Sabri would say, I know my Minnesota folks are going to laugh. We are not going nowhere, all right? We are not going nowhere. Free Palestine, ceasefire now, and arms embargo now as well.